Still keeping you posted on DHT, because I want you guys to know. Happy Saturday. Here in Pittsburgh, not sure where you guys are, but if you're on the northeast part of the country, but the west side of the state, the west side of wherever you are, we had a 75-degree day recently. I had this lady that I was out talking to, we'll just put it that way, and she was like, see, it's climate change. And then I, just to play devil's advocate, I went and looked at all the temperature historical data, and this has in fact happened many times. 1906, was it 1918, 1808, 1945. It actually fucking happens, So anyway, broskies. Let's talk about DHT. So yeah, still running it. 30, basically at this point, 30 milligrams a day. I did those experiments running 200 milligrams a day, and they were fucking insane for the sexual system, but they ultimately ended up causing a little bit of low estrogen sides. For me, if estrogen is blocked so significantly, in this case at the genetic expression level, I'll start getting like sides that I would get if I were to take a lot of Arimidex. My joints would just be a little achy, and it tends to happen in my neck on the left side, and it's uncomfortable. Other than that, though, climax sensation was fucking insane. Ejaculate volume insane. The last big dose was, I don't know, a week and a half ago. I'm still maintaining a 30 milligram a day dose, so none of that has changed. It's all very good. And yeah, I told you guys once I got my hands on DHT powder that I would consistently keep you updated, and I'm happy to have put out a lot of content regarding DHT. It's one of the most powerful things that I've ever touched, more powerful than Proviron, more powerful than testosterone. It's a useful tool. It's a useful tool. I don't suggest people take DHT every day for the rest of their lives. I don't know. You might need to, or you might want to, or it just might be a useful tool to have in the arsenal. But I like it. Let's talk about 4,000 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone. So I'm still running a cycle at this point. Had to get off the cream back on enanthate cream. Cream had given me basically a lot of acne on my shoulders, which I'm now trying to fucking get rid of. Basically on my arms, on my delts here. This acne is literally from fucking rubbing 7 pumps of cream on a day, which has been a pain in the ass. So back on testosterone enanthate, running 420 a week right now. I truly love how I feel on what is ultimately a low-level testosterone cycle. My strength is fucking insane in the gym. I sleep like a baby. I have no side effects. If anything, every marker of performance is better, with the exception of course, running cream, having some acne that was problematic that I'm still fucking trying to get rid of. It's just been a giant pain in the ass. So other than that, though, brothers, let's talk about nitric oxide and erections. Yeah, this is the thing that I think gets skipped in the discussion. And I guess I'm partially suspect of that. I'll admit that. I hadn't been talking about it. Until I had been prompted to really explore it further and talk about it in cases where, like nothing would revive erections in people, but nitric oxide optimization would. You have a couple options, as I discussed, citrulline and arginine together. You've got pycnogenol and arginine together. But ultimately, tried and true, which I forgot to mention in my recent erection video, would be like eating beetroot. Okay, beetroot, pretty effective, man, for improving nitric oxide, and it does so in a different pathway other than increasing arginine. So like, arginine might induce some degree of prolactin increase in people. That's in the literature. So if you're worried about that, just eat beetroots or take a beetroot powder. Probably a little less effective than actual beets. You can get pickled beets at the store and they're fucking good. They taste great. They got a little vinegar on them. And, they fucking facilitate the hell out of erections, boys, really significantly. So, just make sure you're including that in the picture. Pycnogenol and some beets, arginine, citrulline, arginine, pycnogenol, combination of everything. Just be careful and watch your blood pressure. Anything else I want to talk about? Okay, now let's get to questions. Best supplement to boost libido in men. Too general of a question. I think you might have asked this question somewhat recently. Listen, and I don't want to be a dick here, but I want everyone to pay attention to this, right? If you think that you have a libido problem and then a supplement that you can just take will cure it or boost it, you've got the wrong idea about your physiology. And that is specifically because libido is controlled by dopamine in the hypothalamus, little bit of oxytocin release, but largely androgens in the brain, and then good erectile quality, which through a neural system, effectively neurotransmitters, communicate with the brain to register the sensation response. You know, a lot of people's libido problems are actually just erectile issues and the brain part of the sex organ being suboptimal. You know, this neurotransmitter cascade, nitric oxide signaling, etc. In those cases, if you get erections working, well, then you have libido again suddenly, which is interesting, but not surprising. So considering all of this, is implicated, you know, are the major influencers of libido. To ask what supplement will modify all that assumes you don't quite understand this stuff, which is cool. You're not a biohacker, or you're not me up here doing videos about this, so I understand. But brother, you must look at this from a multifaceted perspective, including hormones, neurotransmitters, mainly hormones though, and then the health of the penis. So I couldn't give you a supplement there. Good morning, nosy blacklight. How are you? Mad Cap, what happens if you crush your prolactin? Nothing bad. Yeah, listen, this is a myth as well. And I think there's a lot of errors in attribution on what causes problems in people, specifically in this case, libido problems as a result of lowered prolactin, like crushed prolactin. Crushed prolactin does not behave like crushed estrogen for the male sexual system. And if you ask any accredited, experienced endocrinologist, okay, someone who's an expert in endocrinology, they're going to tell you that there is no disease associated with low prolactin in males. There's just no disease associated with that. There's no conditions associated with low prolactin in males. There's nothing. All right, prolactin, and you know, we make such little prolactin, and there's never a point at which in our lifetimes, as there is with females in pregnancy, where we require prolactin, you know, to secrete milk out of our nipples. We don't do that. So in males, only good things really happen, you know. Now, do I suggest you bottom it out to zero? Probably not. I don't think that's a good idea with any hormone that is usually otherwise in a normal range. But I have a lot of experience with sitting at, 1.7 nanograms per deciliter. That's about as low as you can fucking go with prolactin. You know, that was running CAB. I was running Shasandra. I was running a little bit of P5P. Potentially something else. I'm not sure. But I stayed there for a while, and the only things that happened were increased refractory period and better sexual function. That is it. And I stayed there for a while. I've got the blood work to match it. They're on previous videos of me talking about this, showing my blood work. So, no, there's no disease associated with low prolactin. If you have PFS, of course you can have libido again. Yep. You got to get your erections. You got to get your erections back first and foremost. Okay, erections functioning good again, you will solve a lot of libido problems. And if it isn't, like, you've got to focus on the rest of the sexual system, the neurological system relative to libido, which is dopamine dependent in the hypothalamus. And of course, all these other things that I discussed relative to the brain in the penis, which, you know, if everything's working correctly, it sends this sensation signal to the brain and the pleasure signal to the brain in response to touch, etc. You know, and then you have libido again. So yes, yeah, I'm not sure why I asked that question. I mean, I've been working with PFS people for a while. We restore their libidos, just takes time. Good morning, champs. All right, TMC Mac, how similar and or dissimilar are Proviron and raw DHT? All right, so we've answered this before, but I'll answer it again. They are, I would say they're somewhat similar. The similarities predominantly in terms of subjective effects that I have noticed are masculinity and confidence. Yeah, those are the similarities. And yeah, not even hair loss. Proviron induces more hair loss and shedding in me personally, and I think in a lot of other people, than DHT. And I think the reason for that is DHT is not the sole cause of hair loss in an androgen, context. It is rapid increases in free hormones and free testosterone and AR binding, androgen receptor activation in the scalp, where people that are susceptible to this have a higher density of androgen receptors in certain areas of their head, you know, the top middle, kind of like where things really start to go fucking awry, and people that are losing hair on TRT or androgens. On that note, I doubled the dose of tocotrienols recently, and any degree of shedding that I was having from cycle of testosterone that I've been running stopped completely. So just want to throw that out there. Other similarities, they both optimize seminal vesicles, which would optimize ejaculate volume. Subjectively, they both enhance ejaculatory reflexes, the pump action of the ejaculate, as well as the ejaculate volume, and the sensation. Other than that, they're both going to bind to the sex hormone binding globulin, which ultimately frees up free hormones. But I think that Proviron does that stronger than DHT. I don't think there's any paper out there on the affinity differences between Proviron and dihydrotestosterone powder as it relates to the affinity for the sex hormone binding globulin. But subjectively speaking, my opinion would be that Proviron would be a stronger agonist or binder effectively to the SHBG. Other than that, I just think that, well, you need a little more DHT, it seems, to reach some of the really powerful effects, probably due to the half-life. It's kind of in and out, whereas Proviron is actually a longer half-life than DHT itself. So, you know, they're very similar. I mean, ultimately, Proviron is synthetic dihydrotestosterone with lower potency, with an additional benefit of being an aromatase inhibitor mildly. So I hope that helps. Nosy Blacklight just bought the sources, looking forward to DHT powder. Great. Do you have more videos planned on its use? On DHT, probably. I think I've covered everything, though. I've covered, you know, all the ejaculate optimization and climax optimization, orgasm sensation benefits of taking DHT. But, you know, if the situation warrants it, then sure, I will continue doing content, or if a new unforeseen benefit arises from it, then possibly. There's always the topic of how DHT prevents estrogen-induced prolactin secretion. So that's always like a good thing to talk about, especially in people where that's a problem. So at some point, sure. Thank you for buying the source list. I appreciate that. A lot of you guys did. And, you know, a lot of you guys are buying up, apparently the DHT, which that may make it go out of stock. So people that haven't gotten it, you got to get it before that stuff goes out of stock. After which, who knows when when it's going to come back in. Dream big. Can I combine 20 milligrams 9-methyl beta carboline and 250 milligrams uridine with DHA for 60 days straight for brain repair work? You would be doing a little bit of counterproductive stuff here, because although uridine can be dopaminergic, it can also be anti-dopaminergic. I forget the mechanism for this. So you probably want to go research that, and I wouldn't combine them. You'd be better off combining DHA, a B complex, choline source, and 9-MeBC, and leave the uridine out. All right. TMC is asking, is the protocol still derma rolling in tacotrinos to prevent hair loss? Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And genes. The other part of my protocol is genes. Yeah, my genes. So yeah, I've had, my whole family has good hair genes. That's just the bottom line. My dad's side, not really sure. He died when I was young of alcohol-induced fucking organ failure, like an idiot. But his hair was not so great. He still had a full head of hair. He died at 39. But on my mother's side, her dad, my Italian grandfather, had a full head of hair when he died. And every baby that comes out of that side has a full head of black fucking hair when we're born, including me. So it's that. And I just upped the dose, doubled the dose, think now at 800 milligrams of the tacotrinos that I'm using. And I was experiencing a degree of shedding, which was kind of commensurately replenishing because I have good hair genes. That shedding has now stopped from doubling my dose of tacotrinos. I mean, this is one of the only compounds that we have that actually has studies on it that shows us that we've got hair regrowth in like 35% of the men or something. Or maybe it was a substantially larger amount, but 35% hair growth. I forget the study, so don't quote me. But if you kind of Google similar terms, you'll probably find that study. The one thing that I do notice, so here's what I notice about hair loss and being on cycle, is that if I'm using a shorter ester like if I'm using a longer ester like testosterone enanthate, which is what I'm running now at 60 milligrams a day, it's just, I really don't get much shedding. Whereas the same dose, so 420 milligrams a week of testosterone, if I were to run test prop doing that, well, I get a higher surge of testosterone from the daily injection of 60 milligrams in this case, which is ultimately a higher conversion to DHT. If you want more DHT for your buck, a DHT bang for your buck on TRT, use prop. Definitely you'll have more DHT. So I noticed that on prop, when I was running prop as a cycle, I was getting more hair loss, more shedding. Simon Stone, I am super susceptible to gyno. Even with trying my hardest to control E2, used Accutane when younger and feel this caused permanent changes to the AR. Serum DHT is high normal. Could oral DHT help? Yes, oral DHT, and in fact, I'm pretty sure there's studies on that specifically, that oral DHT facilitating the reduction of gyno. People use that for this purpose. Yeah, I mean, I think what I remember seeing in the steroid help forums, meaning Reddit, was that the use of a DHT gel topically on the area where the breast tissue can grow significantly reduces it. So whether or not oral DHT would be the same, hard to say, but plausibly, a little more than plausibly. David C, I heard high DHT feels like phenibut in terms of confidence dealing with social anxiety. Is this true? I wouldn't compare it to phenibut because, I don't know, phenibut sort of feels a little downerish, you know, because you're just a heavy GABA B receptor modulating situation there, which, you know, I think I personally feel less energetic on phenibut. That's why I don't dose it, among other reasons. I think it's bad for you, actually. It is not good for you. But yes, high DHT feels fucking insane in terms of anxiety. Yeah, I mean, like, there are days where I'll skip the 30 milligram dose of DHT and I notice it. Like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to interact with people. Confident either way, but that DHT confidence is something the fuck else, bro. I don't know what it's doing in that regard, but it might just be a brain AR activation, which disassociates less from the AR, meaning stays bound to the AR for 5 times longer than testosterone. And it's obviously modulating neurotransmitters, and that's really the ultimate cause of that. But it's pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful, man. Yes, major confidence with it. Dream Big also asks, how can I offset the lowering of dopamine and GABA levels from finasteride other than stopping the medication? You probably can't. Yeah, you probably, I mean, there's just certain things that are so powerful that you won't be able to offset them with the use of additional compounds. Yeah. I don't know that you would be able to do this, you know. I don't know that you'd be able to do this because finasteride, like, listen, the 5-alpha reductase enzymes, they do more than convert your test to DHT. You know, they control some of your mineral corticoid signaling, which, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's an agent that you can take that's going to stop finasteride from inhibiting some of those hormone conversions. I just don't think that you know, such a thing exists, or no one's done the research on that. So you're playing with fire here if you're using that shit. You know, here's another comment from you about stop taking fucking finasteride. Find another fucking way or go bald. You know, don't like, I don't know why, dude. I do not know why people take that. You know, when you're me and you've seen innumerable men's lives ruined temporarily until they can get the right treatment by taking finasteride, it's a no fucking brainer. You don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't fucking touch it. How to raise low sex hormone binding globulin fast? You would want to do that by raising estradiol in an acute period in somewhat of a burst fashion, which you would do by injecting testosterone less frequently. Yeah, if you inject less frequently, somewhat higher amounts, your SHBG will ultimately go up. If you inject every day, your SHBG is going to stay down. That's just the bottom line. Isn't always a bad thing, but you know, that is the bottom line. Okay. What's my opinion on SSRIs like Wellbutrin? Well, Wellbutrin is a very different effect on like the depression model compared to citalopram, whereas citalopram is a true reuptake inhibitor of serotonin via blocking the serotonin transporter, and Wellbutrin is really a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. So it's not really an SSRI as much as it is a DRI. Usually with Wellbutrin, people have increases in libido, but when they get off of it, there are a subset of people that have a PSSD-like outcome, which is not good. Dream Big, how long have you seen DHEA pregnenolone take to fix a common deficiency? You're probably looking at a month or so. You know, I think your blood levels will go up immediately, but you know, whatever other downstream or upstream changes, positive modulations of neurotransmitter receptors that's going to have might take time, as well as testicular function. Intra-sex organ DHT gets increased from the use of DHEA specifically. So, you know, unknown how long that takes. Awar Tani asks, how tricky is solving anhedonia and PSSD-like symptoms induced by ashwagandha? Can you push me in the right direction and what mainly to focus on? Yeah, just get your sex hormones in the right place. Stop taking ashwagandha, obviously. take a B complex every day so that you have neurotransmitter support. You're probably going to do some cardio every day so that your neurotransmitters can balance out to a significant extent. And but be on hormones. You know, so much of brain stuff like that we think is strictly neurological, induced by some of these compounds, can be resolved by taking hormones, because the, you know, most of the effects on hormones, especially as it relates to mood and libido on the brain, you know, have to do with hormones affecting neurotransmitters and that whole setup. So that's a complicated situation as well, though. And I want to look at your labs. I don't want to look at where your testosterone levels are. Not that it really matters. You probably have to have a lot higher than that. So if you want to talk about it further, super chat it. Lorcan, does DHT and testosterone have long-lasting reparative effects on the brain that are cemented in after the cessation of use? Can you lock in brain repair gains, so to speak, off cycle? I don't know the answer to that question. I know that, you know, well, the only thing we really know regarding this in the scientific literature is that you have upregulation of tyrosine hydroxylase enzymes. These convert, they basically help you make more dopamine. So yeah, those gains will probably be longer lived. The degree to which they're permanent is unknown. But DHT itself, I believe, has a reparative aspects of brain physiology, especially in the presence of DHT deprivation. And the only way I can really evidence this is at looking at clients with PFS who, when they take DHT, they start feeling a lot fucking better when they had like anxiety and a bunch of neurological symptoms. Madcap, can you use Fedosia agrestis and HCG for recovering for fertility while having PFS? No. You can, but it would be inefficient. Yeah. You need to be on hormones, and you need to be on HCG, and you need estrogen control, and you probably need DHT. Yeah. I'm not sure why you keep asking about other compounds. Do you have like some sort of reservation about going on the one thing that will help you? I swear people will stay sick for years because they're just like, I don't want to do TRT, you know, and HCG and stuff. But no, those things are inefficient. That'd be like putting really crappy oil in a BMW 7 Series. Not a good idea, man. And crappy gas at the same time, you know, and having a subpar non-qualified technician replace your condenser because your air conditioner has a problem. Not a good idea. Don't ask for sources here. We don't talk about sources here. Do that again and I'll ban you. I'll have to ban you, okay? Because that'll get us banned on fucking YouTube. Pay attention. I've said that 1,000 times. TMC, how to go about dialing in DHT and pregnenolone supplementation on TRT. I think you should just start at 30 milligrams a day of pregnenolone and 20 to 40 milligrams a day of DHA. That's just where I've seen people not have problems and people have the best effects. Like, it's actually crazy because, you know, when people like Dave Lee say that the addition of pregnenolone and a TRT protocol makes you tolerate more testosterone, it's actually true. It's actually true. You know, people will have problems on 150 milligrams, 200 milligrams of TAS, and then they bring in pregnenolone specifically, and they can tolerate a cycle suddenly, you know, after about a month. So 30 milligrams pregnenolone, 20 to 40 milligrams a day of DHEA. Yeah. All right, dream big. 140 milligrams testosterone cypionates versus 40 milligrams every other day test prop. What would increase free test more? Well, same dose, 4 times 7. No, it's not the same dose. It's 280 of, well, actually it is the same dose. Definitely the prop. Yep. And by the way, how are you injecting the test sip? Every other day or every day? You gotta include that. But either way, prop increases everything more, especially DHT. Would test prop every day versus every other day be better for estrogen management? I would say every day would keep your estrogen from peaking doubly high, you know? But that may or may not be a problem. You know, it all really fucking depends. You're Henry, man. You're looking great. Following you for 6 years. Thanks, bro. Glad that you come back suddenly or whatever. Yeah, I've gotten, well, I mean, I think that's attributable to a few key things. Number one, I left a bad relationship where I was drinking too much, eating like shit, not going to the gym. You know, that alone changed my fucking life. Number two, I mean, in the last 4 months, I've been on high doses of testosterone. I've been on testosterone for years, but I've been on a high dose of testosterone recently. I don't really drink much, although I have started drinking recently a little bit as a social thing. I kind of just miss the camaraderie, but I still just don't fucking drink like a lot. I have a limit. I'm like, okay, I gotta go. People are like, oh, come on, man. This is why you look like shit. And I don't look like shit because I leave. I leave the bar. I leave the whatever because I don't like, I don't like feeling drunk. And I don't like feeling subpar in the morning. Brother. Nosy Blacklight, outside of your personal anecdote, have you seen oral DHT have similar effects in others at high doses? Yes, everybody gets climax sensation increases, ejaculate volume increases, and erection quality enhancements, confidence, masculinity, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Vanish has gotten some new Pharmatest E. Is that a source? You shouldn't be putting sources on here. The price is half as much as UGL. You think it's real? Don't know, brother. Don't know. Follow up on the sex hormone binding globulin question. Taking TRT cream daily, can SHBG be raised on TRT cream since it's applied once daily? It would be harder, you know, because again, you're just constantly, and you're also, if you're rubbing it on the testicles, you're raising endogenous DHT more, and that would probably bind to the SHBG and continue lowering it. Yeah, you might have to just switch to injections and do infrequent injections for that. That's really the best way I found to do that. Also, though, elevated estradiol will raise the SHBG to an extent. And then just watch out for things that you might be taking that might lower SHBG. There is no definitive like answer on this. There's no set in stone answer on whether or not BPC 157 modifies dopamine levels. You know, I think what you're referencing is the group of people that have dopaminergic problems, no question. They have neurological issues, no question, that have gotten some sort of weird anhedonic response from BPC 157, which I don't get. None of my clients have ever gotten. No one I've known over the years has ever gotten. So you got to look at these people and recognize that they've got issues as it stands. They don't tell you their regimen. When people say BPC 157 or any compound did this to me, and then you believe that, well, then you've just done yourself an injustice, because you have to think about the context of what's happening in that person, what their brain chemistry is like. You know, if their brain chemistry is fucked from one compound that they've been taking or the other, then yeah, their response to things is going to be variable, man. Yeah. It isn't that things cause outcomes. It's that things cause outcomes in the context of what's happening in that person's brain. Didn't mean to sound like Kamala there. DNAV, good morning, brother. I was watching one of your old videos where you suggested less frequent injection 1 time a week on long esters to help with libido problems. Can you expand further upon this? Yes, I can. The bottom line is, with one big injection, or like say you inject every 4th day, like 70 milligrams of CYP or 70 milligrams of testosterone enanthate, this does a number of different positive things compared to a daily injection, with the primary facilitative or influential things being that you increase DHT and you increase testosterone at higher concentrations, because you're doing bolus injections of more testosterone at once, which your body might need, as opposed to a 20 milligram daily sub-Q injection, which doesn't serves to keep levels very stable and not peak them. You know, it could be useful to not peak hormone levels for various reasons, estradiol, or, you know, you get anxiety or whatever, which is ultimately influenced by the context of your brain, not the testosterone. It's just your brain in response to the testosterone. So, but ultimately, yeah, I mean, this is not uncommon to have people have libido problems on an everyday injection protocol, especially with long esters, and then they switch to twice a week or once every 4th day, and the libido problem is solved. The last and primary reason this happens is because estrogen bumps up. So you got some good libido as estrogen is rising, but then it stops and then it goes back down. And for your next injection, your estrogen is a little on the lower side compared to your baseline, which, again, going up but then going back down is very useful for libido. Staying constantly elevated estradiol is not useful for your libido. And having it constantly low is also not useful for your libido. You want it to go and then like that. So those are the primary reasons, on top of increases in SHBG via estrogen peaking, as well as less frequent injections. So yes, that's just the bottom line. Yeah, you're injecting every day and having problems, especially with cypionate. Go to less frequent. Thank me later. Believe me. Any hacks to keep PSA in check when running higher doses of TRT? Don't drink alcohol. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the single biggest contributor to prostate problems. You know, alcoholism and large consumption of alcohol over the years is just like, you're asking for prostate cancer if you drink a lot of alcohol. You just are asking for it. Otherwise, I think genes influence this to a large extent. My PSA has always been at the lowest level of the reference range, even on cycle levels of test. How can I explain that? I don't really drink. I mean, I drink a little bit these days, but must be genes, healthy lifestyle, otherwise, you know, those kinds of things. All right. Awartani. What staples alongside TRT are non-negotiable for the majority of people? Or did you talk about HCG? Anything else? Sorry if the question is big. No, that's a pretty clear question. Non-negotiables, honestly, would be DHEA, pregnenolone, HCG, cardiovascular exercise, and not like the elliptical like girls do. You want to run. I think weightlifting is not a non-negotiable, but you probably have that in your regimen. Otherwise, though, like eating a diet that, you know, and having a lifestyle in terms of what you consume or don't consume that doesn't skyrocket your hematocrit or blood pressure. You know, alcohol, as an example, will raise your hematocrit higher. Smoking cigarettes raises your hematocrit substantially higher than they would otherwise. So anything that testosterone might negatively affect, like hematocrit and blood pressure, well, you want to try to compensate that, you know, by either dosing tadalafil or telmisartan or other blood pressure lowering things, or keeping your diet in a great place. But those are really the you know, the non-negotiables: HCG, DHEA, pregnenolone, you know, cardiovascular stuff. Having a healthy fucking regimen. You know, it's not that testosterone is unhealthy, but in the presence of an unhealthy body, testosterone can tip the scales, especially relative to blood pressure and hematocrit, to where things aren't healthy. All right, does DHEA and pregnenolone increase prolactin? Dream Big is asking. No, neither of those have a mechanism by which they can increase prolactin, with the exception of potential marginal increase, transient marginal increase of prolactin via DHEA, converting some to estradiol. Yeah, other than that, I don't see a direct mechanism for that. You know, I think you're also going to make more DHT as a result of having DHEA in your regimen, which is counter to the secretion of prolactin in the context of estradiol-induced prolactin secretion. AB, what's up, man? I know that non-NBC works mildly as an MAO. It does. Would you be worried about mixing St. John's wort? Yeah, I wouldn't mix the two, honestly. I have taken things that elevated neurotransmitters, let's call it, in conjunction with 9-MeBC, and I personally never had a problem, but I seem to be resistant to problems on shit. So, yeah, you know, my N=1 won't really apply to you. I wouldn't take the two together, nor would I just wouldn't take any double monoamine oxidase inhibitors, you know, together. Dream Big, can modafinil affect the making of dopamine? Yes, it can. It can. Anytime you inhibit the reuptake of dopamine, what you do is you downregulate the projection of dopamine, because the brain goes, I have enough, because it's just sitting in these synaptic spaces, activating receptors, not being cleared. So the brain's not going to just overflow you with dopamine. It's going to downregulate from the back end. So it's not usually a problem as long as you get enough tyrosine in your diet and you do things to keep the system functional. Like maybe take some time off of modafinil, but or keep taking modafinil, but it could be a problem. And this is why I always suggest running macunapurines a couple times a week, just to replenish some of that dopamine, if you're running modafinil. All right, Nosy Blacklight, if you were running test prop daily, which I have and is awesome, and had to travel and didn't want to bring needles and vials, could you switch to test cream or gel just for a week or two and have it be sufficient for the trip? Sure, you would. I mean, you would dial out slightly, you know, like, I mean, your estrogen control would maybe change. The dynamics are different. If you run big on the testicles, you have a little more DHT. But, you know, prop and cream are just very comparable, with prop being slightly slower of an increase in testosterone compared to cream. I mean, cream just goes like that. Cream is the most powerful, like, modality of using testosterone. I mean, you know, rubbing cream on the shoulders or the testicles in the morning, your levels are going to start fucking going up really quickly. Really, really quickly. And cream is incredible. Cream is fucking incredible. So yeah, you could do this. You could also just inject the long ester 200 milligrams if you've previously done that and you know you can tolerate it. You know, I've had to do that once on a trip that I had taken, you know, sometime in the last 6 months, and everything was fine. D. Lindo, assuming you have BPH or a benign prostate hyperplasia, one big bolus injection a week would not be a good idea. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. What you don't want is you don't want a lot of fluctuations in estradiol. Yeah, that's what you don't want. Estrogen is a bigger contributor to prostate problems than I think mainstream people think, but which the literature is very clear about. Yeah, estrogens really, really affect it. The prostate makes its own DHT, from its own logic, from its own necessity for DHT. I mean, you can give somebody DHT and the levels of dihydrotestosterone in the prostate are not going to change very significantly. So, is it all right to do cerebrolysin indefinitely every day? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I wouldn't suggest it. I don't know what kind of adaptive changes that might create over time. I don't think they would be bad. I just don't know. But I mean, there's got to be some degree of like, I don't know that it's good to just consistently be optimizing blood vessel function in the brain. There might be some point at which that's problematic. Nobody really knows. So I couldn't give you an answer to that. It's still, again, it's not really a research chemical in that it is used in a clinical setting, but we don't have enough data to support that or to answer that. Nosy Blacklight asks, if I don't control estrogen, my E2 is 84, okay, on 30 milligrams prop. That goes pretty high for 30 milligrams. Shit. If I follow the DHT protocol 30 to 50 milligrams daily, will I likely still need another form of estrogen? Yes, because DHT doesn't lower the serum, I don't think. It might lower it a little bit. It largely just blocks estrogen's action, when it binds to the receptor. Estrogen responsive genes basically activate and cause you to have an estrogenic response. But if you block that action, which you do with the use of DHT to some extent, well, then you'll have less of that outcome. And you might end up being fine. You might, keep the serum levels high, but you don't really have an effect from them at some high level. But no, you're still going to need estrogen control if that's the thing. You need to look at why you're at 84 with 30 milligrams of prop daily. Yeah, because that is 210 a week. And I went to 65 at 280 a week. So, why are you aromatizing more than me or than, a person whose aromatization is very under control or is like pretty moderate would aromatize? Hey, Costa says, hey, Ryan, which ingredients would you put in your pre-workout, stim free or not? Teacrine, dynamine, mucuna purines. I actually take Torque pre-workout. Not most days, but like some days. I just take Torque and it's fucking insane. It's for those crazy days where I really want to push and I just like want to feel insane. Just take Torque. A little bit of Gatorade. You'd be good to go. Brother. Allie, how much P5P to take to reduce prolactin? This is a good question. The problem with P5P and prolactin, listen, it does work, right? It does work. But you got to take a lot of it. And there's a tolerability threshold with P5P where you just get anxiety mainly and overstimulation and an unsettling type of state. Like you're just kind of on edge with P5P. If it's taken too high, it could also mess with GABA, especially if GABA is deficient and cause you neuropathy-like symptoms, which go away immediately upon ceasing the use of P5P. So it becomes tricky in that regard. If you don't have a source that is making you make a bunch of prolactin like a tumor, or kratom, which would be blocking the dopamine D2 receptors, preventing prolactin from secreting, so therefore it would just go like this over time, then 250 milligrams a day, I think would be fine. If you do have any one of those things, P5P is probably not going to cut it. Hey, Wartani, any rough dose and frequency recommendations for DHT gel or powder to help people with PSSD? In what context, right? In what context relative to other hormones? Because DHT itself should not be used without TRT, HCG, DHEA, pregnenolone. In the case that you're doing everything right, which I have discussed many, many times before on this channel, then anywhere from 50 to 150 milligrams a day. Relative to the dose of Andractim or DHT gel, it's actually hard to quantify because like you have to get like, what was it? I believe it was milliliter spoons and just like dose 2 milliliters on the shaft. Really, it depends on what your goal is. So the dose is a little harder to quantify. Madcap, do you think peptides will ever be provided by doctors and provided on chain of pharmacies if Trump wins? That's a good question. I don't actually know if he's got an eye on that. but it was recently where the wasn't the Bureau, no, it was the government in general had banned the prescribing of peptides, and they gave this super vague response to all of them, which was actually verbatim between most of them, and that it induces some immunogenic like reaction. It was super fucking vague. That there's probably some other indirect reason why they want peptides to not be prescribed by doctors, which is stupid. Peptide sites still have it though, Sourceless has peptides as well, cheaper than I think you'll get them elsewhere. Dream big. Well, calcium D-glucarate indirectly lower prolactin a little bit by lowering estrogen. I think it would lower prolactin a little bit by lowering estradiol in the acute period, but since prolactin can get glucuronidated, I think it would clear prolactin from the system faster, which would then lower prolactin quicker over time. So I think it'd be a twofold way, a twofold outcome of lowering prolactin. So the answer is yes. Here's an interesting one. TTV, are you a Twitch streamer? Hi, I take 15 to 20 milligrams Adderall daily for the past 4 years. When I stop Adderall, erections come back. Adderall fatigue is terrible and unrealistic for my lifestyle and suggestion. Yeah, this is very common on Adderall. You keep the dopamine around, you downregulate dopamine projection. There's probably some degree of dopamine firing impairment that happens in the hypothalamic area in response to a dopamine reuptake inhibitor, which is causing a lack of sexual function. At the same time, I mean, if the nervous system is fucking cranked up, well, that's a recipe, especially relative to noradrenaline and adrenaline, for erectile dysfunction. In fact, if you're prescribed Trimix, which are vasodilators, the antidote to get your erection down, if it's too strong for too long and you're running the risk of priapism, are adrenergic receptor agonists, effectively creating a similar condition that Adderall would create. So your best bet is to figure out why the fuck you have fatigue, get off of Adderall, deal with the fatigue in the meantime, get on TRT for sure, because that'll probably help you almost immediately, and stop messing with it. Yeah. Thoughts on melatonin are, I guess, sort of subtle. I don't have like one extreme view or the other. I think that 1 to 3 milligrams can be helpful in inducing sleep. For some people, keeping them asleep longer. For others, waking them up at 4 a.m. for 2 hours. So I'm not a fanatic of it one way or the other. I'm just really not. Preston, how long can I expect the shelf life to last with UGL tests if the quality is the same as compounding pharmacy or close? I'll want to stock up. I don't really know, to be honest with you. I mean, like a lot of UGLs are using MCT oil, which I'm not sure. I don't know if it oxidizes over time, and that could become problematic for like its stable shelf life. I'm not really sure. I'm not concerned about it, is what I would say. I've got 20 milliliters of test prop that I just bought probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago that, I've injected a couple times just for the fuck of it, but is sitting there and I don't intend to use it anytime super soon. And I'm not worried about it going bad. So, after 2 years, if it's like some sort of like non-vetted UGL source, then maybe you'd be concerned. Other than that, though, I don't think it'd be, a significant issue. Brother. Boys, if you got questions, meantime, source list officially here. Vetted sources, boys. It took me 3 years to validate them all. By validate, I mean use the stuff with clients, use the stuff myself. All the major stuff, like one of, the primary, most trusted sources that I've had a good fucking experience with in every capacity. Yeah, I mean, I had to use their prop. Their prop is so good. It's so clean. It's so fucking, it's basically pharmaceutical grade. I had to use their testosterone enanthate. I used their tadalafil. I used their Arimidex, used their Aromacin. I used a little bit of their Primobolan. I had to do this for a long time, and not just me, to validate these sources. And so that is really the value in the source list, guys. Yeah, man, if you haven't picked it up right now, since people are buying it, they're also buying a lot of products. And so from some of these sources, especially relative to the exogenous DHT powder, I think they're running into, at some point they might have a shortage of it. So get it while you can, brother. Dream big, bought some Torque, excited to try. Yeah, brother, I'll tell you a quick story about this. So I know this girl, her name is Lexi. I'm not going to give her last name, so who's a fucking knows who she is. And she's kind of like, I dated her for a little bit, but she's largely just a buddy, and she's like cool to go out with. And she had drank like 6 beers in the matter of like 3 hours one day. And we were at our second place, like I think about to eat, and she was like pretty fucking roasted. I could tell she was faded. And I told her about it, and I had it with me. I was like gonna bring it to have her try it. So she takes 2 capsules of Torque, and within fucking 5 minutes, dude, she started transforming. She started talking more. She was more lively. She seemed less drunk. And then within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, she like looked at me and she's like, I feel like sober. She's like, I just, because, you know, booze, especially if you consume a lot of it, part of what being drunk is, it's just inhibiting neurotransmitter firing in a large capacity while facilitating other neurotransmitter, other brain regions from firing, which makes you super manufactured, superficially confident, which is ridiculous. But like, she just turned alive and her brain started working quickly. And she just looked at me very coherently and was like, I fucking noticed this stuff. So Torque isn't made to be like an antidote to alcohol-induced cognitive impairment, but it works for that. It mainly is like, you know, if you just can't get going, brain-wise, motivation-wise, focus-wise, cognitive prowess-wise, take Torque. Yeah, take Torque. It just enlivens everything pretty immediately, and you're going to notice it. It's not like your coffee in the morning, which kind of wakes you up, but you've been drinking coffee for fucking 15 years, so it's like some marginal difference. You take Torque and you're going to go, I went from the light switch being off to the light switch being on. Yeah, it's 35% off right now. Code for that is 35 Torque. I don't believe I have that in the description, the code, so take heed. 35 Torque, all lowercase, applies to singular purchases only. Yep, to a degree it will via the mucuna purines in it. Do I know the mechanism by which olive oil could raise sex-hormone globulin? Oleic acid, I don't know. Actually, I think that high doses of olive oil via oleic acid or some other compound are inhibitors of the 5-alpha reductase enzymes. So in that regard, maybe a lower DHT and SHBG goes up as a result of that. Otherwise, don't know, brother. Awatarni is asking about PSSD. Anything to add after optimizing hormones to cure anhedonia, PSSD, 9-MBC perhaps? Well, if your hormone protocol was right, you really wouldn't be having PSSD-like problems. 9-MBC would help via the dopamine enhancement and via the keeping neurotransmitters elevated because you're preventing their clearance. It's one of the things at a mild level that 9-MBC does. Darren, might be a dumb question, but do you just use empty capsules for the raw DHT? No, not a dumb question. And yes, I do. I have enteric coated capsules, which survive stomach acid, that I got from Amazon. You can just, Amazon search enteric coated 00 capsules, and I weigh out 30 milligrams of DHT on a milligram scale and take 2 ends of the open capsule and push the powder together in the capsule, close it, and then usually put it in my, the small little jeans pants pocket, not the big one, for dose later in the day, because I dose it later on in the day. Randall saying DHT cream on the junk. Can it be used as a miracle grow? No, you're not going to grow like 3 inches or something. But in conjunction with the use of a vacuum erection device, so pumping, you would probably grow to some extent. I think immediately or almost immediately you'll notice a better girth. I believe that DHT gel works locally and systemically, so it works locally to bind to the ARs and penile tissues, and I also think that it works systemically in that it will enter your blood and give you DHT elsewhere as well. But I think predominantly, I don't know, it might be 50-50, but I know there's a local effect. of DHT gel when you rub it on the shaft. It's pretty fucking powerful. Nosy Blacklight said, I made a video on getting your test dose to goal serum levels within a week. Yeah, front loading by upping the dose for the first week. Thoughts on doing this with other injectables like Primomasteron? I think that would be a bad idea, because you are then running the risk of lowering serum estradiol levels too much, right? So with testosterone, there's really no like risk of lowering a hormone or fucking things up. Like, sure, you might not be dialed in for that first 6 days of dosing 200 milligrams of Inanthate to get to 2000 or whatever. You're not going to be dialed in the first week anyway. but you're not going to run the risk of crushing another hormone that's very relevant to your sexual function and your mood, which would be estradiol. Whereas if you front load Primo and Masteron, you're gonna lower estrogen very quickly, and it's making it harder to dial in. You'll be deficient in estradiol for a while, or in that crash estrogen state, which is no fucking fun. Do I know if IGF-1 or LR3 increases prolactin? I would say that it has a strong chance. Anything that's interacting with growth hormone increases prolactin. Yes. Any of my clients experience penile growth from TRT? No, I don't think like definitive inches, but certainly like the whole functioning of the system via nitric oxide, better blood flow, endothelial repair, is better. Like you just have more girth, and erections are at their full size, you know? Like if you're androgen deficient for a while or androgen deprived, like your penis is going to shrink. That's just the bottom line. You know, people with PFS experience that. Even people with like androgen deprivation because they've been hypogonadal for 7 years and never got a hold of it will have a degree of penile shrinkage, which you can get back, but you know you got to hit it with androgens for a while thereafter, and likely DHT in that case. Boys, Ramiel, good morning. Good morning, bro. Good morning, brother. I saw a meme recently of Hulk Hogan, and it was him crying, and and it goes, the DNA test, it's like Maury Povich going, the DNA test confirms not everyone is your brother. It's Hulk crying. I thought everyone was my brother. Everyone is my brother. All right, what's your stance on enclomiphene versus HCG? I think HCG is just better. You know, there's no evidence to support the idea that HCG induces blood clots, whereas with enclomiphene and analogs there is. Also, HCG doesn't block estrogen receptors, which you don't want to do. Clomid and clomiphene, they do. Yeah, and that's basically the bottom line. I think HCG is substantially better. Yeah. Yeah, HCG would feel more effective. Yeah. Feels like my estrogen's throwing a party. Well, that's what aromasin is for, buddy. Or DHT deriv like Primo or Masteron. Primo is pretty fucking effective, man. I don't have enough experience. Like I ran it. I ran it for a week one time, and then a couple days, various other times. My physique transformed in a week. It was really crazy. Like I just got fuller and bigger in a week, and then that kind of died off. But it took my estrogen down low. You know, low. Primo. Yeah. I don't exactly know what happened there. Let's just make sure we're back. Sorry guys, like there is a technical difficulty happening right now. We are effectively okay. I think we're back. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened, but like my whole PC just shut down, which is not great. But I think we're back. Let me get the chat back, boys. Let's make sure that this chat is still going to function. Should be the same one. No, it's a different one. Interesting. Okay. All right. I think we're back, boys. I don't really know what happened, but my whole system just shut down. All right. We were on Dream Big's question. How long to wait till estradiol sensitive after switching from cypionate to prop? I'd say give it 3 weeks. Give it 3 weeks. Yeah. Cause that cypionate's largely going to be out. It's going to be marginally affecting you, not significantly at that point. But the prop will have had time to build up to where your estrogen is going to be kind of stable on prop at that time. So that's what I would suggest you do is wait about 3 weeks. Rosie Blacklight, could I just mix raw DHT powder into water in another and drink it? You could. Yeah, you could. Absolutely. Best way to dose it would be sublingually for an acute effect. I think you're probably better dosing it orally, you know, if you're going to be doing it sustainably over time. And if you want like more systemic effects, that'd be my suggestion. But sure, you could mix it in water and drink it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there's a degree of loss of the material if you do that, because it's not protected by a capsule that would be enteric coated. That's why I suggest using an enteric coated capsule. Protects the stuff from your stomach acid kind of burning up the material. Yeah, if you're, well, I don't know, but there was an issue with buffering a second ago. We basically just shut down for a second. I think we're back. Okay, AB, I know you said previous that serotonergic dysfunction is part of SRI anhedonia. Yeah, only in the beginning part though. I've got my hormone protocol going, balance E2 DHT. What else can help with the serotonin system? Yeah, serotonin should recover. You know, serotonin should recover. If you need to take a little bit of 5-HTP, then do that. Again, when you inhibit the reuptake of a neurotransmitter, you you downregulate the projection of that neurotransmitter in the brain regions that create it or project it. In this case being the RAF nuclei. That's where serotonin gets fucking pumped out. Okay. Yeah, somehow the stream just got interrupted, but we are back. We're back in action, otherwise known as baction. We're baction, boys. CK3, can DHT powder be used in a periodic manner as needed? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to notice 4 or 5 days after dosing it, all the orgasm quality, orgasm sensation, ejaculate volume increases. So, yeah, it can be used in this fashion. I'm taking it every day because I'm curious. I'm curious, you know, like erection gains, girth gains, neurological gains. I'm just curious. I also like how it feels. Randall, do you have any books for sale? For sale. I've got a Getting on TRT book. It's really a guide that's for absolute new people to TRT. I've got Sourceless, which is not a book. It's just a source of anabolics. Otherwise, I do have full books that I wrote with thousands of copies, sold tens of thousands over the years on nootropics. You can find them at livecortex.com. Simon Stone. Okay. To check where estrogen is throughout a week after dosing an AI, you have mentioned multiple lab testing days. Yes. Can you remind us what you suggested? Yeah, if it's a Arimidex, dose before you dose the Arimidex so you know where your baseline is. Dose or run labs. Run labs 24 hours post dosing Arimidex so that you know the max amount of estradiol suppression and what that number is. That's probably going to be where you're at your lowest point, either 24 or like 36 hours after administration of Arimidex. And then as estradiol is rising back up again, you want to see when that happens. So dose it like day 3, but do it later in the day so that you can see almost definitely by that point, because the half-life of Arimidex, the estradiol is coming back upward. And the reason you would want to do that is so that you can then use that to determine the frequency of your Arimidex dose. Like if you drop it from 35 to 18, 24 hours later, and then, but on day 3, it's at 23. So it's going back up again, picograms per milliliter. Well, you wouldn't want to dose Arimidex again then. You know, you'd want to wait till it's at 35 again. You know? If that worked, taking it down to 18. So you really do frequent labs in this case so that you can dictate, so that that can help you to determine what frequency to dose Arimidex in the interest of not lowering serum and tissue estradiol to the point where you have side effects for 2 weeks. Can Mucuna be taken with 9-MeO-BC? I think that it can, but you would just probably, you know, again, with stuff like this where you got a lot of dopaminergic stuff happening, simultaneous dopamine activity, you just want to be a little careful. You know, you want to be conservative on your dose of, in this case, Mucuna. You don't want to crank it up too high. So, you know, I don't really know what that equates to. You might want to think about taking 100 to 200 milligrams rather than 500 to 1,000. Another ask, any loose guidelines for calcium D-glucarate? What have you seen it be able to do to estrogen numbers? Here's the thing. It doesn't really move the estrogen down much because you can't test it quick enough in the acute period of dosing calcium D-glucarate to know that it's gone down. Meaning, if you dose a gram of CDG on a Monday, unless 7 hours later you get estradiol tested, 5 hours later, and then 10 hours later, and then 24 hours later, which people aren't going to want to do, you know, you're not really going to see a drastic reduction in estradiol because the reduction happens quickly. It happens quickly and it happens for a transient period. You clear more estrogen from the system, so therefore you end up with a lower serum level. But if you're on androgens, especially if you're injecting semi-frequently, well, then the estrogen is just going to be made again, you know, and right back up. So that's why it has to be taken daily. I've done this before, and there wasn't really a change in my estradiol levels. In fact, one time my estradiol went up 1 point after dosing it, but, you know, I had ran the estradiol sensitive test the next day. So by what was ultimately 18 hours later, my estrogen was right back up. So it probably just drops in a 7-hour period. This is why you got to dose it consistently. Wartarni is asking if I'm going to go on Proviron once I'm done with DHT. Who knows? I love Proviron. I love what it does. It fries my hair, though, quicker than anything else, including DHT. So I might not want to dose Proviron. I don't know. I like how it feels. I can get away with it for about a month, and then I'm like, okay, I'm shedding significantly. I'm starting to see like, some open spots in my hair, and I don't want to, do that consistently. OTC erection quality stack. OTC would be, again, as I've described recently, 2 grams arginine, 2 grams citrulline. That'd be like one starter. Alternatively, 2 grams arginine, 80 milligrams pycnogenol per day. Alternatively, 80 milligrams pycnogenol and like 2 to 3 pickled beets. They look about the size of a hard-boiled egg. You can buy them at most grocery stores. That would be it. Those things are facilitating the nitric oxide pathways, different pathways, which ultimately result in nitric oxide, which is going to lower your blood pressure a little bit, but ultimately it's going to help with erectile quality, assuming you don't have high prolactin or some other fucking thing that is causing you to have erection issues, like being deficient in hormones or being not optimal in hormones. Darren, does applying DHT gel to try and reduce the risk of getting side effects from 5-alpha reductase inhibitor make any sense? I think it makes theoretical sense, although I just don't know the extent to which it's going to help, because you would want to, I think, use oral DHT in this case. Yeah, because I think that the DHT gel is really much more of a locally acting thing. So it acts like if you rub it on the shaft, it'll act the ARs at the penis. There is blood vessels there, or there are blood vessels there, so it will go systemic as well. But I think really you want to be dosing it orally. Now, the problem with this theory, though, is that the 5-alpha reductase enzymes also mediate other hormones and other chemicals in your body, conversions of some chemicals to other chemicals. So you're not going to be like mitigating damage by just taking DHT. In fact, there is no way to mitigate the damage from a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. So I don't know if you're trying to justify the use of it, but please don't. I mean, just my honest advice, because I care about you, man, would be don't take it. Don't take Finasteride. Simon Stone says, one of your guests from the UK said he used Proviron at 50 milligrams for 2 years straight. Yeah, that was Dave Lee. And noticed permanent positive changes after ceasing usage. Theory, oral DHT can do the same thing after long usage. Yes, almost definitely. What I think happened to Dave Lee is he had upregulated there's 3 binding domains which really facilitate the genetic action of the AR, which facilitates androgen responsive genes to have the androgenic effect. And I think he did that via taking Proviron and modulating those binding domains, optimizing them. And that possibly from being hypogonadal for a while prior, as he was, that there were mutations on the binding domains of the AR. That's just a theory. At the same time, though, I think that Proviron will upregulate the function of the androgen receptors. I also think that the effect of dihydrotestosterone, which Proviron mimics, albeit to a lesser potency effect, has obviously permanent lasting effects, because DHT has, in the context of a developing human male, permanent masculinizing effects. It has sex difference in induction effects. So I think that this is a guy named Dave Lee who took Proviron for 2 years straight at 25 a day, and then got positive changes in a way where TRT then affected him positively, whereas previously it didn't really give him what he wanted relative to sexual function and all this stuff. But 2 years of Proviron, then TRT acted like it was supposed to. Crazy shit. I wish we had studies on what happened in this case, right? But those would be my theories. This is why, I'm such a proponent of using these things as tools. Using Proviron. Proviron is one of the most useful tools we have, and it's a tragedy that it's not prescribed here in the States, which is why I created Source List, which is on the screen. All right. Portuga is saying, what would a Romacin equivalent of 0.5 milligrams of National a week, half of 25? Yeah, exactly. Yes. I don't know about your frequency. If you're dosing 0.5 right now of anastrozole and that's good, then I would dose 12.5 of a Romacin once a week at this point, and see how you fare. remember, Aromasin, it takes probably 5 to 6 days longer for estrogen to come back, and it doesn't rebound like this. It rebounds like this. You just slowly make more aromatase enzymes. So, be careful. You can certainly take the estrogen too low with Aromasin, and then, I don't want to say you're up the creek, but nothing you can do short of injecting fucking D-ball is going to get your, estrogen back up. No amount of HCG is really going to move the needle all that much. You could rub exogenous estradiol on your skin or take exogenous estradiol, and that would do it. But who wants to do that? Who wants to do that? Brethren, AB, if DHT administration feels very inhibitory to me, almost an alcohol-feeling GABA modulation, is this a sign that the dose is too high, or is it more the signal I need to work on dopamine more? I think it's neither. I think that it means that it's doing what DHT does. Which it enhances dopamine. It probably inhibits GABA in certain regions of your brain, which might otherwise make you less assertive when GABA is exerting inhibitory control over some set of neurotransmitters. The science of this is actually poorly understood. I went, because I've researched this before to the fucking ends of the earth, and I can't find a paper on it, on the modulatory effects on the brain. But it does happen. So yeah, I don't know what it would end up meaning. It might mean that you need more DHT. Coffee makes you feel good in the morning, but otherwise you have a headache. Drink coffee. I've not tried Deca with TRT. Too many bad stories of people having sexual function problems. I don't want to mess with anything that fucks with my dick. I just over the years have learned not to do that. So I wouldn't mess with that. I'm sure it's useful for other people and doesn't always mess with your dick. So who knows? So if all is natural, so meaning if you're a natty, then one shouldn't use DHT powder. Yeah, DHT is going to shut you down from the hypothalamic pituitary perspective eventually. Probably take a longer time than testosterone, definitely. But at the same time, if you're not making any estrogen or not a lot of estrogen, well, then you have low estrogen and you're blocking the genetic expression of estradiol after it binds to the ERB and ERA, which is probably just going to cause you side effects. If it doesn't mean that this isn't useful to do, but most people that take DHT and they don't have TRT, something that's producing the metabolite of estradiol, run into problems. Low estrogen problems, whether the serum says it or not. Again, it's about the gene expression, gene estrogen responsive genes. Luke FX, what's up, brethren? Is DHEA and pregnenolone still useful in a protocol if you're not running HCG? Well, of course it is. HCG doesn't. Listen, HCG doesn't always replenish DHA sulfate, pregnenolone levels, cortisol levels, the downstream hormones that pregnenolone will build. It doesn't always replenish them. In fact, it's likely not to replenish them more times than not. From the perspective of being able to run labs, I get to dispute and dispel TRT myths. I love doing it. Because I've never really seen it to be the case that HCG replenishes pregnenolone and DHEA levels to some significant extent. I've seen it move it one way or the other. I've seen people on HCG and they've got lower pregnenolone the next month after they test. It's not substantially lower, but it's really not making a difference. Take the stuff. Take DHEA, pregnenolone, HCG. Take all of it. I've not tried taking this. I don't believe. I don't think so. Randall, finasteride helps with the hair loss side effect of supplemented hormones. What can be used instead of finasteride? Yeah, your best bet is just to use tocotrienols and derma rolling. Minoxidil goes systemic. I have clients right now that have full-blown PFS. I wish everyone could see this because I get this question all the time. This is another myth that I can dispel. Minoxidil causes PFS too. Yep, because it goes systemic. It can go systemic. So 15% minoxidil is not the only thing that won't affect the dick. It will affect your dick. Well, it can. It might not affect your dick, but it does affect people's. Johnson's, brethren. Oh, Attorney, recommended dosage and frequency for HCG. 250 IU every other day to start. Move up if you need to. Yeah. 250 IU at once is not beneficial for PTSD, PSSD. Yeah, bro, you need a complex protocol for PSSD, not just HCG. That's why. And one dose of 250 IU is not going to move the needle. I mean, you got to be dosing a lot. I've discussed this before. TRT, HCG, DHEA, pregnenolone, DHT. or hire me for that. That's one of the things that I do, is help people recover sexual function, because sexual dysfunction, you have to look at these things as if it's just sexual dysfunction and not necessarily that it's sexual dysfunction induced by this drug or that drug, because then you go down all these rabbit holes of thinking that it's like this isolated thing. If you just understand, like, I stopped trying to dissect PFS, PSSD from a mechanisms level because it's nearly impossible with the given literature, because it hasn't been studied purposely from the pharmaceutical companies are obscuring the study of it and are preventing the study of it, and rather started focusing on every element to sexual function for males, how to optimize that. Then you resolve these problems. I do not find that anhedonia is very correlated with sexual function. No, I don't find that. I find that anhedonia is a hormone and neurological mediated thing that, usually gets better with the right hormone protocol, but with the possible addition of, depending on the situation, some dopaminergics and mild serotonergics. Yeah, that's what I found. But I don't think that they both do seem to happen in these cases of PSSD especially, but they're not one of the same. The mechanisms couldn't be the same. Portugal, thoughts on phenylpiracetam as a nootropic? Only that and alpha brain have helped my brain fog. Yeah, I look, nootropics certainly can help brain fog. I am of the belief these days, after using nootropics for almost 20 years and being the grandfather of the content of nootropics on the web, that you're usually just painting over dirt with the use of nootropics. You want to be so fucking healthy and awesome that nootropics are just a cherry on top. Like, feeling good and not having any major problems. When I take this stuff, R-Stack, Torque, forget it. I just feel like a god. But if I had like some energy issue that I was painting over dirt with Torque with, it wouldn't be as good, first of all. And you would one in that case would have to be in the back of their mind going, what the fuck's causing my energy problem? You got to get into that. It's like, nootropics serve to keep you functional while you solve the problem that is keeping you from not being functional. Yes, that's really the best use of them, aside from neurogenesis in cases where you've got brain damage, actual brain damage or blood vessel damage, or neurotransmitter deficiencies. Yeah, mostly they just paint over dirt. Phenylpiracetam is powerful. It's a little bit of a dopamine reuptake inhibitor, but it's largely like one cholinergic receptor that it agonizes that kind of gives you the effect of a strong acetylcholine tone in the brain. And yeah, man, it's certainly going to, like, if something is inhibiting that, which is almost definitely the case if you're relying on phenylpiracetam, then it almost acts as if that thing isn't being inhibited at the moment, and you have your proper acetylcholine functioning, and you can function well, you're verbally fluent, you can focus and think and all that kind of shit. So yeah, I think phenylpiracetam is pretty epic. Usually loses its effect over the course of 4 to 5 straight days of using it, after which you got to cycle off. Hams wants to start DHT but scared of the hair loss. I haven't had any from it, any hair loss. Again, Proviron would probably disturb your hair more. However, if you're wanting to use DHT for some life-altering negative thing that's happening right now, you need to make a choice, brother. I'm not going to help you feel any better about it. You might lose hair. You might not, though. You don't know. Have you used androgens before? Have you used testosterone before? That would give you a good gauge for whether or not you're going to lose hair. Yeah. Don't let fear stop you from doing something that will positively change your life. Never do that. Never, ever fucking do that. Randall, I've been looking around for hair loss, for natural forms of hair loss prevention. I stumbled upon scalp cupping. It works like minoxidil by bringing more blood to the scalp. That might not be a bad idea. Though you have to shave your head. That's funny. You got to go bald in order to prevent yourself from being bald. That makes sense that it could do that. I never even thought about that, actually. But ultimately, the blood of the scalp and oxidative stress is what really is the further downstream mechanisms from very elevated free testosterone and androgen receptor activation in the scalp, and a reduction in the subcutaneous fat tissue of the scalp. Yeah. Those are the things that really cause it. AB said, DHT derivatives specifically Masteron mess with the hairline a lot, but actual straight DHT doesn't touch it. Improves hair texture. Yeah, I haven't found DHT itself to really fuck with my hair at all. Again, I have good hair genes. I take the tocotrienols, etc., but DHT orally hasn't messed with it that much. Doesn't mean, you know, DHT like isn't contributing. It's contributing indirectly. I get more hair loss on Proviron, which increases fucking free test a lot, and I get more hair loss on Prop or shedding, which fucking increases free test a lot, bro. DHT really doesn't move the needle for me personally. I've been dosing oral DHT powder for 60 days. No major hair loss, boys. All right, so, you know, whoever was concerned about that, I really wouldn't be, especially if you need it. Again, don't let something you need to do prevent you from doing what you need to do. That's all I would say about it. All right, boys, I'm going to end the stream. Questions are getting a little scant. People are dropping off. Great questions today. Content coming tomorrow. Monday. Okay, so look forward to that. I'll be out of commission probably Tuesday, Wednesday because of the election. You know, I'm going to be covering it, or at least, you know, hanging out with some people and watching it. So there's that. But, you know, we'll be back to content, you know, ASAP thereafter. Probably Wednesday I'll post something. So look forward to Monday's content because it's going to be a fucking banger, brothers. Obviously, live stream next Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Source list right now, the only vetted source right now, real, true, validated sources of anabolics and everything that we talk about, including DHT. You can get that in the description of this video at livecortex.com. If you need to hire me for consulting, that's one of the main things I do. I get fulfilled when people can get better. It's actually the most fulfilling work ever. When I started adding it, I noticed I was happier because I could help fucking men that were in shambles or in just bad situations. So, you know, I have a lot of years of doing this, so my expertise is really useful. Otherwise, boys, fucking rock on. Have a great weekend, and I'll chat with you soon.